cloud. All right, we're recording. Awesome. Um, 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Okay, cool. How are you doing today, Logan?
It's a very interesting day, Michael, because when I woke up, it had been snowing in Kansas City for about an hour. I get up between 3 and 3:30 every single day. As I look outside my beautiful home office here now, it's sunny and 45 degrees and all the snow is gone. So in Kansas City, I tell you what, it can be snowing 1 minute and it can be sunny the next. And I try to take that same parallel into my own life. No matter what's going on, big old storm, could be happening. Right around the corner is April and springtime. So anyways, I'm always just kind of looking for parallels and trying to enjoy everything that gets thrown at us. But I'm having a great day, Michael. We've been interviewing or have some interviews kind of recorded earlier. And so I'm just really excited to be here and hopefully add some value to you and your show.
No, that's awesome. And then just being in Hawaii for so long, we have the same phenomenon. I won't say problem. We have the same phenomenon with rain. It'll be super sunny one day. It's happened to me once. I had a convertible and I go inside to get some juice into like the convenience store with my top down. Sun is out, and then I come back out and the sun is out, but my car is soaked. I could have been in there for longer than like 5 minutes.
It's so true, though. I mean, one thing in this business, as I'm learning, and I just read Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights, which I cannot recommend, enough. But anyways, one thing that I'm learning in life is that, your perspective, the way that you see something, the way that you're framing it in your own mind is you can change that, and you can change it by telling yourself different stories. And so emotional intelligence has been something I've been studying for about 7 or 8 years now. And I say studying, I'm trying to implement because it's much more difficult to actually do on a regular basis. But, I love the analogy of seasons and weather because we get all 4 seasons here in Kansas City. So, and I'm a big Catholic guy, and in the Bible, it says there's a time and there's a season for everything, and so I tried to relate my business life to kind of, seasons. And it's just a nice way to think about kind of where you're at personally. I get a lot of people reaching out to me on a regular basis that are just getting started out. And I said, look, you got to go plant, you got to build a foundation. We got to start getting some deep roots in there. And, it's just a great way to be able to tell some stories. And I'm always looking for those threads.
That's awesome. How did your foundations go about? How did you get started?
Well, I think my foundation started a long time ago, but I'll just say, 7 years ago is when my whole life changed. And, I was an NFL football player and I got cut from the NFL, and I had identified as an athlete my whole life. And so whenever that was taken from me or, pushed upon me, whatever you want to call it, I had to really kind of think about who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do with my life. And so 7 years ago was a season for me of uprooting, of cultivating, of creating the new version of Logan Freeman. And so, frankly, during this period of time, I went back to school and finished my master's degree. I lost 120 pounds in 6 months. And then I was driving an hour to work and back every single day, making 265 cold calls. So NFL guy to, bottom of the totem pole, going to school at night, making 265 cold calls during the day. It's easy to make that scenario a bad one, but I turned my car to the classroom on wheels, and I started to study. I started to really, dive deep into who I was, and found out that I'm a pretty resilient guy. I think a lot of people are pretty resilient, but at the end of the day, those things happened. And I also lost my father to his battle with drugs and alcohol during that same period of time. So in 6 months, my life really was uprooted. And, I had a lot of, and so I had a lot, I said, I always tell people I couldn't really go any farther, to the bottom because I was there, and so my wife now, always asks me, she's like, what are you afraid of? And I said, being mediocre. And I know that's like it's kind of like a shiny way to say that, but it's true because I've been to the bottom. I've lost a close individual to me. I've had my identity taken away from me. And so it's like, man, it's other than my kids or my wife, something happening to them, I think I can handle most of the things that are coming at me in life. And so, during that period of time, I really started to read and dive into personal development and business. And I realized that after I started my job here in Kansas City, that if I really wanted to be a rich dad, so to speak, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that book really had a big influence on me. If I really wanted to start being that person, I need to make some different choices and stop trading all of my time for dollars. And so I knew that, but I didn't implement that. So it took about 4 years working in and out of Kansas City, doing some real estate on the side to then I believe God saying, hey, you're so bullheaded that you're not going to listen. I'm going to push you out. And so I got fired, so 4 years ago, I was fired from a 6-figure sales job here in Kansas City. And in Kansas City, that's top at least 10% from a salary standpoint. The Midwest is pretty affordable on a lot of different fronts. But, I took a step back and I said, okay, what does this mean? And where can I go from here? And I like to say that, in 2 years really is when I started my investment firm. We've amassed about 1,000 units here in Kansas City. So we've had a pretty quick kind of scale up period, but I've learned a lot. I've made a lot of great relationships, but I have to say it all stems back from 7 years ago and having that season where I was kind of uprooted and I had to start planting the right seeds. And I'm starting to see some of those start to come to fruition now.
Okay. And that firm is FTW Investments?
That's right. So FTW is our last names, Freeman, Tuck, and Webb, but we're also 3 guys that are very competitive. So it also stands for the win. I always joke that, I always joke that because, if it was WTF, it'd be a different story, right? But I always joke that I was hit so hard in football so many times and I had so many concussions that I have to use acronyms to remember my, things in my life. So through my, speaking engagements and things like that, I have an acronym for just about everything. And it's a good mental model to be able to remember a lot of stuff, I think.
Cool. Okay. Something I like to ask my guest is, it's a 2-part question.
Okay.
What is the investment that you, I guess your best performing asset? You have to give numbers. Just what was the best, most profitable investment that you've made? And then what is the investment you're most proud of? Usually they're 2 different
Absolutely.
questions.
So we're finally, taking 3 deals full cycle this year, which we're very excited about. And I would say the best investment that we have made from a performance standpoint is a 26-unit property that we purchased mid last year. And it's in a submarket of Kansas City, but we are already at year 4 of our pro forma in relation to our rents and our operating efficiencies. And so, I'm proud to say, and I think that our investors will have upwards of about a 75% IRR on that project because it was short term. It's a lot shorter than we originally thought, but also we hit the numbers that we were very, conservative at when we were looking at from the underwriting standpoint. So that's probably our best performing asset. I would say the most proud. If we take a step back and we think about June or July of last year, we're coming into COVID or we're in COVID and everybody's kind of sitting on the sidelines. Well, Parker, Corey, and myself, those are my business partners. We decided to implement what Charlie Munger always says, zig when everybody else is zagging. And so, we decided to go put 426 units under contract. It would be the largest acquisition to date by far. And we thought we had the right team in place. We had an investment bank behind us, believe it or not. And they failed to raise even 1% of the capital needed for the project. So what I'm most proud of is us stepping in, renegotiating an extension, taking it to our investor group and capitalize on a $7.5 million equity raise in 30 days. I have to say, I'm very proud of that.
Okay. That's awesome. What were some of the challenges with the property? Like, why did it fall through? Obviously it didn't fall through, but why did it fall through with the bank?
Well, I think that the investment bank that we had kind of hitched our wagon to, so to speak, was really based on, raising for funds, and having a fund that folks raise to. So they have like a 12-month, typical raise period where they don't have, time-intensive deadlines that they have to stay on. And, frankly, they instilled a lot of confidence in us because of their track record. But at the end of the day, they didn't hit the timeline that we needed. It was a 45 or a 60-day kind of timeline. And they said, look, guys, we didn't get it done, so I don't know what to tell you. And so it was nothing to do with the property. I think it had everything to do with the structure of the way that they were raising the capital, but also you have to remember, we were right in the middle of kind of the worst time period with COVID-19. So people didn't know if people were going to pay rents. They didn't know. They were kind of holding on to every single dollar that they had. So, I think that their typical investors were institutional style, institutional grade. And a lot of those guys were playing the sit and wait kind of game because they can. And so I think that was kind of the couple challenges that we saw and were able to overcome by telling a compelling story, taking more ownership of the process and really stepping in and getting it done ourselves.
Okay. That sounds good. I just thought of something. This is something that's that I'm personally struggling with my group is building a team.
Yeah.
I had put my legal structure in place, private placement's all good to go. Our attorney's happy. And our team members are like falling apart. And I was all like, do I have like a personality defect? Am I hard to work with? And I ask around and, just to get like that third perspective. And
sure,
it's not me, it's them. They're just, I guess, not committed or not as committed as I am, or just, life comes up, you get busy. Do you have any recommendations for team building, how to find the right team members? When you're, obviously we're networking, but like how to find the right team members when you're networking?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one that I've done a ton of studying on. And a book that I like to point back to a lot is Robin Dreek's Sizing People Up. He's an ex-FBI agent, but he basically came up with 6 signs for predicting behavior. And the number one is vesting. And so does the success of the other person rely on the success of you? Meaning, if you succeed, does the other person succeed? And so I think that vesting is one that we're very, very, is at the forefront from when we look at partnership, even with a vendor, right? But with our partnership, I'll take a step back and say we became business partners before we became friends. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. We were business partners before we were friends, meaning we didn't have any baggage in relation to a friendship, in relation to any pre-existing relationship, other than it was always business related and cordial, and said, hey, let's get through a couple of transactions together, see how they go, and then figure out if we want to go build a business together. And so I was able to see during, some pretty tough times how these guys were going to react and how, they felt I reacted during some scenarios. So we got to kind of look forward before we even got in business together, which was really nice. But when we talk about, setting up the partnership, we're very strong with strength finders, the Enneagram, Colby assessment, and everybody takes those assessments. They have one little workshop and then it's over, right? That's not how we think about this. It's not a one-time snapshot. It's, hey, I understand what your top talents are. If cultivated, they will create, your strengths. But then we apply that mental model to a Japanese mental model called Ikigai, which is basically the sweet spot. It's the intersection between your greatest strength and your greatest passion. And then we look at that compared to the commercial real estate world and say, okay, great. We know what your strengths are. We know what your Ikigai is. Where can we find that sweet spot that actually fits inside of this commercial real estate investing firm? Let's have you stay in that lane. I'll stay in mine, and the other person will stay in theirs. And we try to operate out of that, because I know that if one of my business partners focuses on doing a lot of videos and marketing and things, well, one, he just won't do it. He's just not going to, because that's not his sweet spot. But understanding financials, understanding operations, working through accounting, setting up business entities in the right way, all of that is operating in his sweet spot. And so we make sure that each one of us is working in our Ikigai. And then also, we do ruthless evaluation. We run our business off of Gino Wickman's book, EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And so we know, what our rocks are, what every single person is working towards, and how to keep, stay in that lane. So then we apply, and I know I'm dropping a lot of books, but we then apply Ray Dalio's, one of his best principles, I think, which is radical transparency. Say, okay, we had a project. It got delayed 3 times. Why did it get delayed? How could we have not allowed it to get delayed? Was the delay rational? Was it needed? Or, hey, we didn't get an equity raise done. Well, first off, that's never really happened, or we didn't get debt placed, or we didn't, raise the rents in the time that we thought we were going to. Okay, great. Why? And then we assign responsibility. So Jocko Willink's book, Extreme Ownership, is another principle that runs through our business. So I've never felt that I can't go to one of my business partners and speak my mind in a way that is constructive. And so, and we're all three full-time. So I'm not privy to kind of somebody doing this kind of part-time, just because I've always been a full-time real estate investor, and the folks that I'm working with, I want to make sure that they are too. Just, obviously goals alignment are very, very close to what we're doing. So everybody's bought in, so that vesting piece comes up again. Those are some thoughts that we could spend a lot of time on, but I figured I'd rattle off a few of the resources that have been helpful for us.
No, those are great. And then, maybe one day we can come back to these once I've taken a good read. These are super awesome resources. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Last question. What do you think what do you feel that your superpower is?
Well, for me, it's individualization. And let me explain what that means. So, I understand in a transaction, in a conversation, in a business interaction, what's important to each person and how they're feeling about it. And I don't run past yellow lights, meaning if I see something that's incorrect or is just a little bit off, or somebody's behavior is not typical to what I normally see, I address that in the moment. Because if you're a leader, you're not afraid of crucial conversations, right? That's another great book that everybody should read. But you're also not afraid of crucial conversations because if you try to address this situation later in a different time period, the feeling's not going to be the same. Maybe some stuff has changed, but if you get it out right on the table, right then and there, and you actually address it, then you can, either resolve it or decide to take action. And most time, people just want to be heard. They want to be heard that their opinion, their value is being created in that scenario. So my superpower is really understanding each person's needs in a scenario, and then not running past them, but stopping, addressing those, and being willing to give before I'm trying to take anything.
Awesome. Thank you. Sorry, one last thing is how can my audience provide you value? You've already helped us out so much. What can we do for you? What have you got going on?
Well, I'm always putting out content on LinkedIn, and I'm trying to really hone in kind of the message, what's important to people, and what's resonating with people. So engaging on LinkedIn is always a fantastic way for us to build relationships. If anybody is ever interested in the Kansas City market, that's where we own and operate our 1,000 units. That's where we're going to continue to grow our portfolio. I'd be happy to chat with folks, but really just engaging on LinkedIn and having conversations. If you have a roadblock, I'll leave people with this. Sometimes a breakdown is a breakthrough in disguise. It can be a red light, but you can turn it into a green light. So keep educating yourself, stay persistent, and keep the knowledge gain going. It's so, so important. Do not stop learning, because it's the number one attributor to my success and our firm's success. So I think those are the two things that I would ask people do. Awesome.
Thanks, Logan.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on. Hopefully people got some value, and I probably left folks with 5 or 6 different books to go read, but that's been the catalyst for us is to continue to get other perspectives and implement those in our business.
For sure. Yeah, I'm going to, I stopped recording, so I'm going to go ahead and put those in the